After arriving at school to register, Edith found out that her childhood friend Cliff had changed his college entrance exam preferences. Just as she was about to go to the neighboring B university to confront Cliff, she found a diary in her dormitory cabinet, to be precise. It was a diary written by her 10 years in the future. She opened the first page, and there it was written in bold, "If I could do it over, I would never be with Cliff." The handwriting was sharp. With faint tear stains at the edge of the page, Cliff changed his college entrance exam preferences for Diana's sake. He had fallen for the struggling student Diana back in our senior year of high school. In truth, he had long grown tired of me. If only I had known earlier, I wouldn't have been foolishly deceived for 10 years. Cliff only confessed to me so I would give up the guaranteed graduate admission spot at Lips University, getting me pregnant before marriage just to secure Diana's selection. But Diana killed my Beck and even caused my parents' deaths. How could Cliff bring my enemy home? Cliff asked me for a divorce today because Diana is pregnant. I've lost everything. I really can't go on. Edith was so frightened that she dropped the diary on the floor. If it weren't for the identical handwriting, she would have suspected it was someone's prank. Diana transferred to their class during their senior year of high school and became Cliff's deskmate. After ranking at the bottom in the mock exam results, Diana cried all morning. Cliff, annoyed by the noise, offered to tutor Diana. He had once said he had a dislike for foolishness, and every time he explained problems to Diana, he would frown with frustration. How could he possibly like Diana? At that moment, Cliff took the initiative to call and explain. "Edith, I filled in the wrong major and ended up with a failed application, but it's okay. Our schools are very close to each other. We can just apply to the same university for graduate school." Edith put down her diary. "Cliff, did Diana also get into B university?" The person on the other side was silent for a moment. "Yes, she got lucky. Let's not talk about her. I'll take you to visit B university another day." Edith reluctantly accepted Cliff's explanation, but after that, everything started to go wrong. Edith went to B university to find Cliff, but he was absent 9 out of 10 times. His phone was often busy. He said he was in online group meetings. Edith scrolled through Diana's social media feed and saw a photo of her wearing Cliff's jacket, with the caption, "Silly me, forgot to bring a jacket, but someone's jacket is so much warmer, Tilda." Edith heard that Cliff had caught a cold, so she went out in the rain to bring him medicine, only to find out that Cliff had gone to give an umbrella to Diana, who had forgotten hers. One small incident after another, the cold and one-sided chat box, the lukewarm phone calls, the shared moments that went unanswered, all of these piled up like a snowball, eventually crushing Edith's enthusiasm and expectations. The last time, during the National Day holiday, Edith and Cliff had agreed to take the bus back to their hometown together. But Cliff said the night before that he had refunded his ticket because the professor asked him to do experiments at school. In reality, the next day, Diana posted a group photo where the two were surrounded like a couple in the center. The knight said he would always protect the silly princess. Edith somehow ended up following the location tag on the social media post and went there. It was a KTV. Through the glass of the private room, she saw Cliff being egged on to share a piece of cake with Diana, so the reason he stood her up was to celebrate Diana's birthday. As Cliff stepped out of the private room with cream on the tip of his nose and a smile in his eyes, she quickly slipped away, afraid of being seen. Cliff was smoking on the terrace with his friends. "My friend was the first to bring up the matter of changing my application preference. Did you change your preference at the last minute because of Diana?" Amid the swirling white mist, it was hard to make out Cliff's expression. "I bear some responsibility for Diana not getting into University A, so I came to University B to accompany her in preparing for the postgraduate entrance exams. Consider it my way of making amends." "Damn, bro. Since when does your academic assistance come with after-sales service? You're not falling for Diana, are you?" "What about Edith then?" Cliff curled his lips into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "Don't you think Diana is like a cultivation-style silly beauty?" Then, he frowned and said, "However, I'm completely fed up with Edith. For a full 20 years, from birth until now, the time Edith and I have spent apart doesn't add up to more than a week. My mom even plans for us to get married right after graduation. Just thinking about that predictable, monotonous life ahead makes me suffocate. TSK, don't you regret it later? Be careful not to lose the watermelon while picking up the sesame." He blew a smoke ring nonchalantly. "Don't worry, once Diana gets into Lips graduate program, I'll accept my fate. I'll date Edith properly, get married, have kids." His lazy, disdainful tone pierced Edith's heart like a sharp blade, making it hard for her to breathe from the pain. That boy who made a wish with her under the meteor shower to attend university together, his smile felt so genuine. Could it all have been fake? Over the past 20 years, From kindergarten to high school, she had long regarded Cliff as family, and her budding girlish affections had also sprouted because of Cliff. Every hand-holding after school under the sunset, every hug during moments of sadness and joy, the first kiss in a hidden corner after growing up, she experienced all of these with Cliff. But what did any of it mean? Was it just her reading too much into things? She thought her feelings were already obvious. And she had even planned to confess her love when school started. But now, the mounting truths laid out before her left her breathless, forcing her to believe what was written in that diary. Edith ran back to her dorm and opened the diary. My heart grew heavier the more I read, tears falling like broken strings of pearls onto the diary. Everything in the diary was gradually coming true, and what followed was her competing with Diana for the only guaranteed graduate spot at Lips. Cliff confessing his feelings, coaxing her into losing her virginity, an unexpected pregnancy, and then her voluntarily giving up the guaranteed graduate spot. 3 years later, Diana returned to the country, and the two rekindled their old flame. Diana intentionally pushed Beck into the water. Edith's parents risked their lives to save Beck, using their own bodies to lift him, and both lost their lives, but in the end, Beck was still killed by Diana. And Cliff shielded Diana from taking responsibility. All because she was pregnant. Since Cliff didn't love her at all, she refused to repeat the same mistake. Whether the diary was real or fake didn't matter, she didn't want a love that had to be forced. A week later, Edith voluntarily applied for the Overseas Exchange Student Program. Edith was just receiving the application receipt when Cliff happened to come looking for her. He glanced at the receipt. "What's this?" "Party membership application form," Edith said casually. Cliff didn't press further. Nodding. "Why aren't you replying to my messages? Your phone is unreachable too." Because Edith had set the chat to do not disturb a week ago. "I just joined the student council and have a lot going on. What do you need?" Edith's indifferent attitude made Cliff uncomfortable, but he didn't want to dwell on it. "Diana and I came to a university to study. She got her period. Could you bring some pads over for her?" Edith looked up at him, almost laughing in disbelief, after a week of no contact. Cliff had come to her, and it was actually for Diana. Edith flatly refused. "I don't have time. As for sanitary pads, you can buy them just 50 meters ahead." But Cliff flushed red. "It's not really appropriate for a guy like me to buy that stuff." "Oh, come on, our Edith is the sweetest." As he spoke, he pushed Edith to go buy it. Edith's heart felt like a sour plum swollen and about to burst. She broke free, facing Cliff. She was always this soft-hearted. So soft-hearted that she was willing to do anything for him. Her eyes red-rimmed, she glared at Cliff and said, "I don't want to." "Edith, how could you?" Just then, a student council senior named Arvin happened to greet her, using an excuse that she had something to do. She left without looking back and went to the student council with Arvin. But when Edith came out of the activity center, Cliff was waiting for her at the entrance. His eyes darkened slightly, his tone displeased. "Edith, are you dating that senior from earlier?" Edith didn't know where his anger came from, nor by what right he was questioning her. "Then what is your relationship with Diana?" she retorted. Cliff instinctively replied, "Of course we're just Friday." From behind came a clear, slightly coquettish female voice. The girl's high ponytail made her look vibrant and full of youthful energy. "Cliff, so this is where you are. Hurry, our movie is about to start." "Edith, sorry. But I don't know where the cinema is, so I had to ask Cliff to go with me. I'm not as independent as you are. A total idiot in daily life like me can only trouble Cliff." Cliff let her link her arm with his. Edith felt a sting in her heart but forced a smile and said, "Well, I hope you both enjoy the movie. Goodbye." After that day, Edith and Cliff tacitly fell into an inexplicable Cold War. Until Christmas Day, Edith was called back home by her parents. Today was Cliff's birthday. Edith and Cliff had celebrated 19 birthdays together, but this time there was one more person. As the Yang family's door opened, the person facing her made her freeze. "Hi, Edith, what a coincidence." Diana was actually here too, wearing Edith's stitched pajamas. This was prepared by Cliff's mom for Edith. The parents of both families often had meals together, and Edith and Cliff would stay over at each other's places. Edith wanted to act completely unfazed, but her eyes still stung against her will. Cliff's mom apologetically explained, "Cliff invited Diana over for his birthday. She accidentally spilled milk on herself just now. Edith, please don't misunderstand." Diana cozily linked arms with Cliff's mom and said in a sweet, pleading tone, "Edith, these are your pajamas, right? Auntie washed them so they smell so nice. I really love them. I'm so envious that you have a beautiful and kind-hearted Cliff's mom who dotes on you." Cliff's mom laughed awkwardly. "Diana, you're such a sweet talker. How about I take you as my goddaughter? When Edith and Cliff get married, you can be the bridesmaid." "Okay, Mom." A cool, youthful voice from behind interrupted the family bonding scene. Cliff lazily came downstairs wearing stitched pajamas. When did I agree to marry Edith? Besides, have you even asked her? His gaze seemed to frost over. Some people are getting along quite well with the senior. They probably look down on RB University. Edith's eyebrows twitched violently. This was the first time she had witnessed Cliff's ability to shift the blame. It was exactly as described in that diary. 10 years later, Cliff, in order to force Edith to divorce him, fabricated evidence of her affair with Arvin, even going so far as to ruin Arvin's reputation completely. This was undoubtedly the last straw that broke her. Edith twitched her lips. Auntie, I've long regarded Cliff as a brother. We won't get married. Cliff snorted and interrupted. Who wants to be siblings with you? Edith, remember what you said today, don't regret it. Then he took Diana and left. Edith's mom quietly asked Edith if she had argued with Cliff, and Edith shook her head. She didn't know how to tell her mother about what would happen 10 years later. It was absurd and ridiculous. Now she could only hug her mother tightly, explaining that she considered Cliff family and had no romantic feelings for him. A hint of regret flashed across the faces of Edith's mom and Cliff's mom. No one knew that Edith was crying inside. Stripping away 20 years of feelings was far more painful than she had imagined. Passing the esports room, the sound of laughter was as piercing as needles. Cliff was playing It Takes Two with Diana. Continuing from the save file she and Cliff had used before, he glanced sideways at Edith by the door and laughed loudly. Diana, your skills are much better than some people's. Some people are so clumsy they get stuck on one level for over 10 minutes. Diana covered her mouth and laughed. Really, you're not talking about Edith, are you? He snorted lightly, deliberately provoking. Yeah, isn't it hilarious? She's a gaming idiot. If I weren't so good-tempered, any other guy would have thrown the controller and started cursing. And the certain someone he was talking about was standing at the door, watching him and Diana play the game she had specifically bought. Edith gave a self-deprecating smile. She admitted she was terrible at games, but she had done a lot of research and practice to cater to Cliff's preferences, more seriously than she had ever studied for her college entrance exams. No wonder they say childhood sweethearts can't compare to a sudden new encounter. 20 years of day and night together couldn't withstand the novelty of a beautiful fool. Edith did nothing, clenched her fists, turned her head and went straight to the guest room. She had once lived in this guest room. Every little detail was decorated with her heart and soul, and she had once fantasized that one day she would become a member of this family, but she never expected Cliff to despise her so much that even being together was for Diana. Fortunately, it's not too late to change things. She wiped away the remaining tears at the corner of her eye and packed all her belongings left in the Yang residence into just one small bag. As she walked into the living room, a figure blocked her path. Edith, are you playing some kind of hard-to-get game? Diana crossed her arms, the childishness in her eyes completely gone, replaced by a maturity that didn't match her age. Edith was startled. Could it be that Diana? Diana stepped closer step by step. I advise you not to waste your efforts. You can't possibly win against me. Cliff, I've got my sights set on him. And you'd better hand everything over willingly, otherwise. Or what? Edith probed cautiously. Diana leaned close to her ear, a challenging smile playing on her lips, and said, the complete destruction of your family. Edith recalled the events recorded in the diary again, suppressing her anger as she continued to ask, what do you want then? Diana curled her lips. For example, the national physics competition next month. If you promise me you won't go, I might consider letting you off. Edith sneered and said word by word, in your dreams. Diana seemed utterly infuriated by her, then turned her gaze to the glass display case nearby. So this is the gift you gave Cliff for his coming of age. No wonder he's kept it for 10 years. What do you think if I destroy it now? Will he get angry? Diana, how dare you? Edith's voice accompanied the limited edition airplane model being smashed to pieces. Cliff, hearing the loud crash, also came out. He saw the model shattered on the floor and his face instantly darkened. Diana collapsed to the ground crying, Edith, I only touched the model once, and I've already washed my hands. They're not dirty. How could you just smash the airplane model like that? Do you hate me that much, just because I touched it? You have to destroy the airplane model that Cliff likes the most. Her tears fell like pearls, her delicate, tear-streaked face truly pitiful to behold. Cliff flared up in anger, grabbing Edith by the arm. What are you doing? She's a guest I invited. How dare you treat her like this? Her shoulder hit the wall with a heavy thud, and tears welled up from the sheer pain. I didn't. But her explanation was pale and feeble, because Cliff simply wouldn't listen. Cliff helped Diana up from the ground. Seeing her palm was cut by glass, he frowned and coaxed softly. You're hurt. Let's go inside so I can bandage it for you. Diana took the tissue he handed over, wiped her tears, and then gave Edith a smug look. Cliff, I'm sorry. Edith misunderstood the relationship between you and me. I'll fix the airplane model. He shook his head. It's just a model airplane. If it's broken, it's broken. I didn't really like it that much anyway. This model airplane was a gift that Edith saved up a year's worth of pocket money to give to Cliff for his 18th birthday. Cliff cherished it so much when he received it that he wouldn't let anyone else touch it. Once, when a distant cousin reached out to take it down to play with, Cliff saw it and shouted loudly, even scaring his cousin to tears. Cliff said, "This was a gift from Edith. No one is allowed to touch it." But in just 2 years, everything had changed. Before the door closed, Cliff stuck his head out and coldly instructed Edith, "Edith, you should pack things up. Since you bought the models, it's fitting for you to handle them." Edith felt as if a piece of her heart had been brutally carved out, the pain so intense she could hardly breathe. Of course, since these were things she had given, it was only right for her to handle them. She swept up the shattered fragments with a broom, placed them into the model box, then lifted the heavy box and threw it all into the trash bin outside the villa. Just as she turned around, she met those inscrutable dark eyes. "Edith, what are you doing?" Edith said calmly, taking out the trash. Cliff glanced at the cardboard box in the trash can. It looked familiar, but he couldn't recall where he'd seen it. Just then, Edith was about to leave, but Cliff grabbed her by the arm. "The plane model is packed. Remember to get it fixed. And, don't you have anything to say to me?" "Oh, happy birthday." Edith's indifferent tone irritated him, and he frowned. "Edith, are you doing this on purpose? You deliberately bullied Diana, deliberately broke the plane model, and deliberately angered me. Why? Because I didn't get into a university with you? Or because I invited Diana to the birthday party? We're just friends. Don't you think you're overstepping?" So he knew everything all along, he just didn't think she was worthy of asking. Edith felt a lump of anger stuck in her throat and immediately shook off his hand. "I told you, I didn't bully her. As for the relationship between you and her, I'm not interested. If you can't stand me, then we can cut ties. From now on, unless absolutely necessary, I won't show up." With that, she turned and walked away, followed by the sound of furious kicking and banging behind her. Cliff's friend suggested going to karaoke together. Edith initially wanted to refuse, but was enthusiastically pulled into the car by them. As soon as they entered the private room, they found quite a few people had already gathered inside. Cliff and Diana naturally took the center seats. Edith's deskmate leaned over gossipily. "What's going on?" "I heard Cliff and Diana went to be university." Edith nodded. "He said he slipped through the cracks. The top student in the whole school slipping to 100th place. Who's he trying to fool? I always thought there was something off about their relationship, and you're so carefree." Still smiling and saying it's impossible, several of Edith's close friends joined the group chat. "What a shame. So many people in the school were rooting for your childhood sweetheart story. We all assumed you were already together." "Exactly. Remember when you fainted from low blood sugar during the morning run? Cliff, without a word, picked you up and rushed to the infirmary. And also, during winter, when you mentioned your feet were cold, Cliff immediately took off his scarf and wrapped it around your feet. He remembered your period cycle, always preparing brown sugar ginger tea for you. It was so sweet. Who would have thought someone else would benefit from what he planted?" All these past memories blurred Edith's vision with a film of tears, the tip of her nose aching with sorrow. These things Cliff would only do for Diana. A few people started a drinking game. Passing a tissue with their mouths, the boys played a trick. When the tissue reached Cliff, only a corner was left, and next to him was Diana. Cliff subconsciously glanced at Edith, who turned her head away, yet Diana took the initiative to lean in and receive it. Cliff was also taken aback for a moment. The moment their lips met, it looked exactly like a sweet couple kissing. Everyone started teasing them. "Oh Tilda, could it be that some people are blurring the lines between acting and reality? You're making us die of sweetness." Diana took that small piece of tissue, smiling coquettishly. "No way, don't talk nonsense, Tilda." Edith felt a wave of nausea and suddenly stood up. "I'm not feeling well. You guys have fun. I'm going home first." At this moment, Diana grabbed him, her face full of apology. "Edith, are you jealous? I'm sorry, that was just a game." "Why don't you sit next to Cliff and play?" someone muttered under their breath. "She's not Cliff's girlfriend, so why is she interfering in this?" Edith replied calmly. "I really have no right to, so I won't disturb your public display of affection." Diana looked as if she was about to cry, holding her hand and pleading humbly. "Edith, don't say that. I'll leave. You stay and keep Cliff company." Edith didn't know what Diana meant by her act. Only feeling that the Diana of 10 years later was so cunning she couldn't cope, she tried to shake off Diana's hand, but somehow, Diana lost her balance and fell backward, fortunately caught by Cliff just in time. Cliff's face was as dark as ink, his eyes swirling with an unknown anger. "Edith, no one is forcing you to stay. If you want to leave, then leave. Why push people? Cliff, don't be like this, I should be the one to leave. Cliff pulled the person into his embrace, his tone firm. Let her go, we'll continue. Edith under everyone's gaze, her face flushed red with anger as she stormed off. Once she stepped out of the private room, her tears fell like a bursting flood. That's just as well, seeing Cliff for who he is early on won't let me fall deeper and end up miserable. But Diana stuck to me like a plaster and followed me out again. At that moment, a drunkard was causing trouble in the KTV lobby, swearing and starting to smash things up. He randomly picked up a wooden stick and began attacking the customers indiscriminately. Diana shouted indignantly, I've already called the police, get out of here now, or you'll regret it. This directly ignited the man's anger. You little brat, are you looking for death? Ridiculous, you look down on women. I'm an independent woman of the new era, and I'll sue a scoundrel like you until you're finished. Diana stood with her hands on her hips, but when the man threw a vase at her, she immediately covered her head. You're going to jail. The drunkard seemed to have found his target and charged straight toward Diana. Diana scurried away like a frightened rat and finally hid behind Edith. Diana continued to provoke him with her words, until Edith couldn't take it anymore and told her to shut up. Cliff heard the commotion outside and came out as well. The drunkard thought the two of them were together, raised his stick, and even Edith was about to be hit. Just as the stick was about to land on them, Cliff rushed over in a flash. Diana was spared from harm because of Cliff's protection. With a thud, the stick landed on Edith's head. The last thing she saw was Cliff's back as he shielded Diana, and the dazzling crystal chandelier spinning into darkness. Edith regained consciousness amidst excruciating pain, finding her right hand heavily bandaged. The movement of her fingers tugged at the wound, making tears well up in her eyes. And Cliff stood by her hospital bed, emanating an inexplicable chill. His first words weren't gentle concern, but blame. Edith, what on earth is going through your mind? Why would you confront a drunkard? Do you realize you almost got Diana killed? Edith trembled with rage, forcing herself to speak through the pain. What do you mean I almost got her killed? She was the one who provoked the drunkard first. But Cliff wouldn't listen to anything, continuing on his own. Edith, how much longer are you going to keep this up? Where has the obedient and well-behaved you gone? Edith couldn't hold back her tears. Obedient, well-behaved, so she could keep being deceived by him. Cliff, if you think Diana is so obedient and well-behaved, then go find her. You don't need to worry about me. Cliff looked at her red-rimmed eyes, feeling a tightness in his chest. His words had indeed been too harsh just now, so he softened his tone. Just rest well these days. I've already requested leave for you. You won't be participating in next week's national physics competition. Just as expected, Edith couldn't help but sneer inwardly. He spoke so grandiosely. But it was all still for Diana. He continued, since you can't conduct the experiment anyway, why not just let Diana have this competition award? Both of your entries made it into the top 3. If you give up, the gold medal will be Diana's. Seeing that Edith remained silent, he extended another olive branch. If you agree not to go, I'll promise to be with you next semester. Edith asked, restraining herself. Why next semester? Cliff thought Edith was anxious and made up a random excuse to brush her off. Next semester I'll apply to study at University A's lab, so we won't have to do long distance anymore. What a clumsy excuse. In reality, it was because next semester, Lips University from abroad would send a special team to evaluate talent between University A and University B. The only guaranteed graduate admission spot will also be determined from this. Cliff agreed to be with her just to make her infatuated with love, turn her into a love-struck fool, and then make way for Diana. Everything in the diary was starting to come true, but she would never repeat the same mistakes. Cliff's phone ringtone broke the awkward atmosphere in the hospital room. He glanced at the screen, his expression slightly changed, and he hurried out. After a long time, Edith still hadn't waited for Cliff to return. Feeling a bit thirsty, she got up to fetch water herself, but the sight of two figures embracing in the corner of the hallway made her heart sink to the depths. Diana leaned against Cliff's chest, sobbing, "It's all my fault for causing Edith to get hurt. I shouldn't have called the police." The young man's slender, bony fingers gently caressed the girl in his arms. "How could this be your fault? It was Edith who insisted on leaving, and she was the one who provoked the drunkard. If I hadn't arrived in time, you would have been hurt today too. Given the chance to do it over, I would still choose to save you," Diana asked innocently. "But I saw that Edith's hand was badly injured. Will she blame me?" Cliff shook his head, his voice gentle. "She brought this upon herself. This might be a good opportunity for her to learn a lesson. Otherwise, who could tolerate her terrible temper?" These words stabbed into Edith's heart like a knife. She thought she had grown numb, that her heart wouldn't ache anymore. yet she could still be affected by Cliff's words and expressions, stirring up the pain in her heart. The next day, Cliff came to see her with chicken soup. "Your grandmother is sick. And your aunt and uncle have gone to the countryside to see her. This is chicken soup my mother made for you herself. Drink it while it's hot." Edith didn't respond, just kept packing her clothes with her left hand. Cliff walked over to her and asked, "Why are you packing your clothes?" "I'm checking out of the hospital. I want to participate in tomorrow's competition," she said with an unusually serious tone. Cliff suddenly exploded. He dumped all the clothes from the entire bag out. "Edith, what on earth are you making a fuss about? Do you not want your hands anymore?" Edith picked up her luggage bag again and continued packing clothes. The youth's eyes blazed with leaping fury, his fists clenched tightly as he prepared to leave in anger. "Edith, stay quietly in the hospital room and stop thinking about tomorrow's competition. I'll submit a withdrawal notice for you. The prize for this competition must go to Diana, and I'll compensate you." With that, the door closed. Edith didn't have time to react before the sound of the lock clicking into place followed. Ignoring her wound, she threw herself against the door, screaming with all her heart, "Cliff, you bastard, for Diana's sake, you actually locked me up. I hate you." Her pounding and shouting did not earn Cliff a glance back. The next morning, no one really came to open the door. Edith tried every possible method, but she discovered that when Cliff left, he had even taken her phone with him. She looked down from the second floor at the soft lawn below, then, as if making a firm decision, resolutely jumped. The moment she landed, her ankle twisted, the pain so sharp it nearly brought tears to her eyes. Edith wasn't entering that competition out of stubbornness. She needed the award to secure her spot as an exchange student for postgraduate studies abroad, but today, it seemed even fate was against her. Hobbling to the hospital entrance to hail a taxi, she found them either full or snatched up by others. By the time she arrived at the test center by bus, the exam had already ended. At the school gate, a young man in a white shirt held a bouquet of flowers, his eyes smiling as he watched Diana skip and jump into his arms. The deep autumn wind, like a fierce cold wave, completely engulfed Edith, freezing her to the bone with pain. In fact, all of this had been foreshadowed long ago, hadn't it? It had all changed ever since the day Diana transferred back to the school. "Cliff, Edith, are you feeling better now?" When Dad heard you were injured, he drove through the night to come back. "My dear, you've suffered so much." Seeing her closest family member, Edith could no longer hold back. She threw herself into her father's arms and began crying intensely. "Edith, what's wrong? Is your hand hurting? Should Dad call the doctor for you?" Edith said nothing, only shaking her head. When she finally cried herself out, she sobbed, "Dad, I want to be discharged from the hospital." "Great, let's check out of the hospital right now and go home." Edith took out the application receipt for the exchange program. "Before we go home, I'd like to stop by the visa office. I applied for an exchange program at the University of Australia. Will you support me, Dad?" Edith's dad was momentarily stunned, but then broke into a smile after reading it. "Of course I'll support you, and it just so happens that my next work assignment requires me to be temporarily stationed in Australia. This is absolutely perfect. Let's go." Edith's dad quickly packed the luggage for Edith. In the visa office hall, Edith didn't expect to run into Diana, followed by Cliff who was collecting tickets behind her. "Diana, I've got the tickets, let's go Q." Cliff froze the moment he looked up, his heart suddenly clenching at the sight of that pale little face. "Edith, what are you doing here?" His voice suddenly rose sharply. "You're not following us, are you?" "Following?" Edith almost laughed in disbelief. In Cliff's mind, she had already become so despicable. She suppressed the dense, aching pain in her heart and replied, "I'm waiting for my dad here, and I don't have a habit of following people." At this moment, Edith's dad, who had just parked the car, came back and saw Cliff, greeting him happily. "Cliff, what a coincidence. Are you here to apply for a visa too?" Cliff felt somewhat awkward. "I'm here accompanying a classmate. She's going abroad for an interview but doesn't know how to apply for a visa." Diana curved her eyelashes and tapped her head. "Yes, Uncle, I'm so silly that I don't even know how to apply for a visa, so I had to trouble Cliff." Edith couldn't help but needle her. "So what about when you go abroad, who are you planning to bother then?" To her surprise, Diana smirked and boasted, "Cliff said he'd go with me to the interviews, and we'll worry about the rest later. Who knows, maybe someone will even go to school with me." Edith cast a deep glance at Cliff, who didn't deny anything, just lowered his eyes with a smile. Meanwhile, Cliff was looking at the documents in Edith's hand, feeling inexplicably uneasy inside. "Uncle, since you brought Edith to apply for a visa, are you planning to go somewhere?" Edith's dad, unaware of the complicated feelings between them, nodded and replied, "Yes, because Edith is about to go abroad soon." "Dad," Edith interrupted Edith's dad, It's just a trip abroad. Let's hurry and get the paperwork done, or it'll be too late." Edith lowered her eyes, hiding the sadness within, and pulled Edith's dad away as they left. "Edith, haven't you and Cliff made up yet? We've cut ties." "Was it because of that girl just now?" Edith instinctively nodded, then shook her head. Edith's dad, being a man of experience, immediately saw through it. "Cliff, if he's willing to throw away 20 years of friendship just because of this girl, then your dad supports you going abroad. Life is long, and if he can't even hold on to this much, then he's not worthy of being your boyfriend. Your dad also dated when he was young, and after your mom's guidance. My ability to spot a tea has grown year by year. That little girl just now, she's clearly a scheming green tea." As he spoke, Dad began imitating the silly tone Diana had just used, making Edith laugh. Everyone who loved him was by his side, so what did she have to be sad about? Edith received a video sent by a classmate while she was at home packing after getting her passport sorted. Diana received an interview invitation from Lips University, then leaped joyfully onto Cliff. And Cliff spun her around in circles while holding her. "Cliff, I really received the offer from Lips University. I'm so happy." Amidst the cheerful cheers, Diana couldn't help but kiss Cliff. Cliff had an expression of unconcealable surprise on his face, but he didn't refuse. Instead, he said with a smile, "I'm happy for you too." Other voices of discussion could be heard outside the video. This is practically the most inspiring youth campus story of 2025, a top student helping a beautiful airhead successfully turn her life around. One generation plants the trees, another gets the shade. Edith would probably cry her eyes out if she saw this. "Then you don't understand Cliff. You don't understand men." Edith is as bland as water, always burying her head in books. How could she compare to Diana? The roaring cheers drowned out the whispers. "Get together, get together, get together." Diana held Cliff's face and asked softly, "Are you willing to be with me, to study abroad with me?" Lips is willing to make an exception to admit students from other majors, but you might need to take the postgraduate entrance exam yourself. Cliff looked up and listened to her seriously, his eyes overflowing with love. Edith didn't have the courage to continue watching and directly closed the video. Even with her eyes closed, she could imagine Cliff's expression of having his wish fulfilled. Within a few minutes, she received a call from an unfamiliar number. "It's Diana." "Edith, I got an interview offer from Lips University." Edith didn't think their relationship had reached the point where they could share such friend-like joys. "Congratulations. What can I do for you?" Diana instead evaded the main issue and started talking about something else. "I know you applied for the exchange student spot at University of Macau abroad, and you didn't tell Cliff, right?" Edith concealed the panic in her voice and asked, "So what, are you planning to tell him?" She sneered, "Don't even think about using such tactics to provoke Cliff. I'll take him abroad with me, at least in this lifetime." "You won't get the chance." Edith had already confirmed Diana's identity, so she decided to be completely open. "This lifetime, Diana, you're a reborn person." "Yes," Diana admitted without any concealment. "Do you know how your right hand got injured? Clearly that drunkard was aiming for your head." "Actually, I was the one who injured it." "Ha ha ha, what?" Her heart was violently wrenched. "I stepped the glass shards into your palm, and at that time Cliff was watching right beside you." Guess where those glass shards came from? A wild, piercing laughter came from the other end of the phone. Cliff said, "Only if your hand was injured would you willingly give up your spot in the national physics competition." "Edith, this is my final warning to you. Next time, it won't be just an injury." Edith couldn't calm down, screaming into the phone, "Diana, what are you so arrogant about? Don't you believe I'll report you and make you lose the Lips offer?" The other side seemed intent on driving her mad. "Go ahead, you can try. Guess how your parents died in the previous life." Edith clenched her phone tightly, almost crushing it. Of course she knew. That diary clearly recorded how her parents died tragically and the entire process of her being driven into a corner. As for that child, although she had never met her, she could still feel a fraction of the pain. After hanging up the phone, her emotions remained unsettled for a long time. The next day, Cliff actually showed up at her door. He actually acted as if nothing had happened, smiling and ruffling her hair just like he always did. "Edith, are you still angry about what happened that day? I never thought the older you get, the more stubborn you become." Then, he pulled out an application form from his pocket and placed it in front of Edith. "Is this enough? I've kept my promise to you." Edith glanced at it. It was a transfer application form for University A. "Don't worry, with my grades I'm definitely capable of getting into University A, when the time comes. I'll keep our college entrance exam promise and attend school with you, then we can pursue graduate studies together. Is that good enough for you now?" His casual tone felt like a form of condescension. Cliff nonchalantly took out his Switch controller from the bag and lay down on Edith's bed to play games. Edith felt a tumult of mixed emotions inside. At that moment, she received a message. When she opened it, it was a video sent by Diana. The blurry yet familiar silhouette on the screen made her unable to resist clicking on it. Her blood boiled and roared along with the shaky footage. On the white hotel bed, the boy's sleeping face was peaceful and clear. At this moment, it quietly overlapped with the profile of Cliff on her own bed. So familiar it made her heart palpitate. Immediately after, Diana leaned in and gently planted a kiss on his cheek, creating an intensely ambiguous atmosphere. Edith trembled. Her phone clattering to the floor as a sharp, wrenching pain in her heart forced her to her knees. Cliff nervously approached and asked, "Edith, what's wrong with you?" The moment his hand touched her, Edith felt nothing but uncontrollable nausea and disgust. Get away, don't touch me," Edith retched and screamed hoarsely. Cliff's hand froze mid-air, and he was also somewhat displeased. "Edith, what's wrong with you? I've already humbled myself to come make peace with you today. How can you still treat me like this?" But the moment Edith looked up, his words trailed off. Those beautiful eyes were filled with disappointment and brokenness. The corners reddened, tears flowing uncontrollably. He had never seen Edith so heartbroken. Was she shedding tears for him? "What's wrong? What's really wrong with you?" He couldn't help but feel panicked. "Cliff, get out of my room. Get out of my house." Edith forced herself to stand up, then pushed Cliff out. The moment the door closed, she leaned tightly against it and slid down, collapsing onto the floor, curling up and whimpering softly. "It's over. Everything is over. Once this semester is over, she should just leave for good." Edith took a few days off, and when she returned to school, the sports meet was already underway. This sports meet was jointly organized by University A and University B. Edith passed by Cliff without even glancing at him, and Cliff wanted to step forward to talk to her, but was pulled back by Diana, who was standing nearby. After an exhilarating men's 400-meter relay race, the clear and sunny afternoon was suddenly swept by strong winds for some reason. The school broadcast suddenly sounded a red alert: typhoon incoming, all students, evacuate the playground immediately. Minutes later, fierce winds mixed with rain assaulted everyone, making it impossible to see the road clearly. With a loud crash, the temporarily erected red canopy was lifted by the wind and hurtled straight toward the crowd. The students screamed and began to flee in all directions. Diana and Edith were separated by the crowd and both fell onto the playground. The red canopy was flying straight toward them. "Watch out." Edith dodged in time and narrowly escaped disaster. However, Diana was unfortunately hit. The students, in a panic, worked together to lift the red canopy, only to find Cliff lying on the ground, with Diana beneath him, perfectly protected and completely unharmed. Cliff was unconscious, with injuries all over the back of his head. Crimson blood, mixed with rainwater, flowed to Edith's feet. For Diana, did he really not care about his own life? Cliff was severely injured and remained unconscious for nearly a week, only waking up just before the end of the semester. Classmates said Diana was deeply devoted, staying by his bedside without leaving to care for Cliff. Edith always had nightmares, dreaming of Cliff collapsing in front of her covered in blood, his pale lips trembling as he whispered. When she leaned in close, all she heard was "I'm sorry." She would wake up in a cold sweat, her tears having long since soaked the pillow. Cliff. In the early morning, Edith's mom knocked on her door. "Edith, Auntie Yang called and said that Cliff has woken up. He wants to see you." Edith opened the door. "Mom, I don't want to go," Edith's mom said with difficulty. "Edith, you're about to go study abroad, and who knows when you'll be back. Why don't you go to the hospital to see Cliff, and also say a proper goodbye to Auntie Yang?" Edith's dad interrupted. "Oh, if our daughter doesn't want to go, then don't force her. Why are you pushing her?" "But, we've had 20 years of friendship. How can I possibly turn them down?" Edith's dad directly pulled Cliff's mom away. But as evening approached, Cliff's mom called again, this time directly to Edith. "Edith, Cliff has a high fever and is crying and fussing while calling your name. Could you come see him? I'm begging you as his aunt." Edith held back her refusal at the tip of her tongue. "I know what Cliff did recently hurt you, but could you help me out? He's my only child." Cliff's mom had always treated her like her own daughter, so she agreed. "Okay, Auntie, I'm coming right now." Edith's dad was accompanied by Edith's mom as they drove to the hospital together. Just as Edith opened the car door, she received a phone call from Diana. "Edith, I advise you not to come to the hospital." "Diana, what are you trying to do now?" The other party's voice was as cold as ice. "I'm just giving you a friendly warning. In your previous life, your parents died to save your child. In this life, I suppose you wouldn't want them to die saving you, would you?" Edith's hand trembled. "What? Failed to threaten me. So now you're resorting to murder?" "Do you dare?" Diana sneered. "I don't need to lift a finger. As long as you return to your destined path, your parents won't be able to escape their inevitable death. Every cause has its effect. You don't need to scare me. Alright, then give it a try." The call ended. Edith looked at her parents' eager gazes in the car and hesitated. Edith's dad looked at her pale face, feeling somewhat worried. "Edith, what's wrong? If you really don't want to go, then don't." Edith leaned into her father's embrace and finally made up her mind. "Mom, Dad, I'm feeling a bit unwell. Please stay with me tonight. I'll miss you both so much when I go abroad tomorrow." Edith's mom messaged Cliff's mom, then with a worried expression, went to prepare some hot soup for Edith. Half an hour later, the news of a landslide was broadcast on the living room TV. It was the only road the Winfred family had to take to get to the hospital. Edith's mom felt a wave of lingering fear, so Diana was telling the truth. Thankfully, this time she had protected the most important person. The next day, Edith's mom got up early to pack Edith's luggage. As she was about to get in the car, a yellowed diary fell out. Edith's mom picked it up. "Edith, should we take this diary with us?" Edith shook her head. She took the diary and threw it into the trash bin by the door. From now on, she would not return to the fate described in the diary, and there was no need for it to exist anymore. Cliff, who had been waiting for a long time without seeing Edith, left the hospital on his own and took a car to the Winfred family's home. At the intersection they had crossed countless times, the two cars passed by each other like two parallel lines that never intersect, tracing the courses of their separate lives. When 30-year-old Cliff woke up in the hospital, he found that he had been reborn, transported back 10 years. As soon as he woke up, he began to talk nonsense, agitatedly calling out Edith's name. "Edith, where is she? Is she okay? She fell from such a high floor. Mom, Dad, hurry up and bring her to see me. Is she dead? Are you lying to me? If something happens to her, I won't live either. I want to apologize to her." Cliff's mom to calm Cliff down, they made several calls to the Winfred family. But Edith refused to come to the hospital to see Cliff. Out of necessity, they gave Cliff a sedative to barely manage the examination. The doctor said it was because the pole at the sports meet hit his head, causing a concussion that led to slight memory confusion. The next day, the hospital arranged for a psychologist to provide him with psychological therapy. Cliff's mind gradually became clearer, and with the doctor's help, after confirming it wasn't a dream, he cried tears of joy. This must be a chance given by heaven for him to start over, so he secretly left the hospital to find Edith. Along the way, the image of Edith jumping off the building still echoed in his mind, the panic inside him like an earthquake, unable to calm down for a long time. 10 years later, Edith committed suicide by jumping off a building. Perhaps the pain of losing both parents crushed her, or perhaps Beck's death made her life unbearable, or maybe after being wronged by him, Edith could see no way out, which is why she stood on the 19th floor rooftop. Beck was too mischievous. He fell into the rushing water while playing, and Edith's dad and mother exhausted their strength to save the child, giving their all to sustain Beck's life. Later, when Beck had a high fever, Diana gave him the wrong medicine, causing an allergic reaction, convulsions, shock, and ultimately his death. By that time, Edith's psychological defenses were already on the verge of collapse. She grabbed a knife and insisted on confronting Diana to settle the score, claiming that Diana was the murderer who killed her parents and Beck. Cliff was so furious that he blurted out, "If you keep making a scene, we're getting a divorce." Edith might have been scared, as she behaved herself for a while, but her attitude toward him was extremely cold. Speaking no more than 3 sentences to him in a month, he was utterly frustrated and went to a bar to drown his sorrows, but ended up accidentally sleeping with Diana. But to make matters worse, Diana was pregnant. Diana tearfully hugged him and said, "I don't need you to take responsibility. I'll raise the child on my own, as long as you can visit often." Cliff softened, so he came up with the idea of a fake divorce. After the divorce, he would first give Diana and the child a proper status. Once the child's household registration was settled, he would remarry Edith. Unexpectedly, Edith agreed without hesitation and signed her name on the divorce agreement. But for some reason, Diana went to his house again and had a conflict with Edith. Diana fell from upstairs, bled heavily, and both she and her baby died. Before she died, Diana identified Edith, accusing her of being the murderer. Cliff was also furious and slapped Edith. Later, the police and forensic doctors intervened. After reviewing the surveillance footage, they found that Edith had been wrongly accused, but by then, it was already too late. Cliff learned the news that Edith was going to jump off the building and rushed over in a panic. He knew he was wrong, which is why at the most critical moment, he tightly grabbed Edith's hand, not letting her fall, but her resolute gaze pierced his heart like a sharp blade. Cliff, if I could live again, I hope you'd let me go." In that moment, he felt his world collapse, and he resolutely followed her, jumping down as well. The car slowly pulled up to the front of the Winfred family home, but Cliff's heart didn't calm down. Instead, an inexplicable panic enveloped him. He knocked on the door for a long time, but it remained tightly shut, and Edith's mom wouldn't answer her phone. The neighbor next door poked her head out, kindly reminding him. Edith is apparently going abroad with her parents. They're already at the airport. He remembered their chance encounter at the visa office. Edith was apparently going on a trip abroad with her parents, so he asked, "How long ago did they leave?" "About half an hour. Edith is apparently going to study abroad." Before the neighbor could finish speaking, Cliff hurriedly got back into the car. He couldn't wait any longer. He wanted to see Edith immediately. The immense pain he felt the moment he lost Edith was something he never wanted to experience again. Since heaven had given him a second chance, he would treat Edith well and make up for the mistakes of his previous life. "Hurry up and drive." To the airport, the driver started the car, but an accident occurred not long after they set off. With a screech of tires, the driver slammed on the brakes and came to a halt. Diana stood in front of the car, motionless, staring at Cliff in the back seat. Cliff got out of the back seat and forcefully pulled Diana away. "Diana, are you crazy? Do you know how dangerous that was just now?" Diana looked innocent. "Cliff, your injury hasn't healed yet. How could you sneak out? Auntie is going crazy with worry. Come back to the hospital with me right now." After saying this, Diana grabbed Cliff's hand, but he reflexively pulled away. Diana wore a hurt expression on her face as she lowered her eyes and apologized. Cliff didn't mean to do it intentionally either. It was because in his previous life, after discovering he had been intimate with Diana, he developed a physical aversion. He felt a deep-seated rejection of this woman from the inside out. Thinking of Edith, he said anxiously, "Diana, can I explain it to you when I get back? Right now I need to go to the airport to find Edith." He turned to get in the car. Diana but quickly blocked the car door. "Cliff, why are you going to find Edith?" "None of your business. I have something to say to her." Cliff was getting impatient. Diana teared up. "What could be more important than your injury? Can't it wait until she comes back? Besides, she hasn't visited you even once during all these days you've been in the hospital. Could it be that you really like Edith? Is that why you rejected my confession, because of her?" Cliff looked at the aggressive Diana in front of him and felt inexplicably irritated. He simply admitted outright, "Yes. I like Edith. What I feel for you is nothing more than the mutual help between classmates. Since I failed to help you get into University A, I just wanted to accompany you through the postgraduate entrance exams. That's all." The truth, which had been dormant for 2 lifetimes, hit Diana like a sledgehammer, leaving her stunned, and Cliff took the opportunity to push her away and get into the car. By the time he arrived at the airport, Edith's flight had just departed. He looked up at the white contrail left by the plane, his whole being unsettled, feeling as if something was slowly disappearing from his life. He could only console himself that the winter break was only a month long, and by the time of the new year, Edith should be back, right, at that moment. Cliff's mom also got the news and rushed to the airport, dragging Cliff back to the hospital to continue treatment. Half a month later, Cliff was discharged from the hospital. Just in time for the new year, when he eagerly knocked on the Winfred family's door with New Year's gifts in hand, an unfamiliar face answered. Cliff was stunned for a moment. "Hello, I'm looking for Edith." The man nodded knowingly. "Oh, they moved away. Didn't you know? They've already sold the house to me." Moved? Cliff, his head was buzzing, his blood almost freezing, and he stood rigidly in place. How could they have moved? Why so suddenly? The person said with a smile, "It's not sudden. They were assigned overseas, and his daughter is also studying abroad, so the whole family simply moved there." Cliff was breathing heavily, the gifts in his hand scattered all over the ground. Not only had she moved, Edith had also gone abroad to study. He rushed into the yard like a madman, disregarding everything. As the homeowner questioned him in astonishment about what he was doing, he stopped in the courtyard, looking around only to realize that there was truly nothing left. Even Edith's favorite swing was gone. How could this be? How was it possible? Why was this life different? Memories flooded his mind like a torrent. His perfunctoriness, his emotional abuse, his childish stubbornness, all turned into sharp knives piercing Edith. The homeowner unceremoniously shoved him out the door. "Young man, if you keep trespassing like this, I'm going to call the police. Get out of here." Amid such a lively and bustling festival, he felt as lonely as a stray dog. Cliff, as he turned away dejectedly, he suddenly caught sight of a yellowed diary hidden in the bushes. As if drawn by some unseen force, he walked over and picked it up. Opening it, the familiar handwriting inside made his eyes widen abruptly. It was Edith's diary. The timeline inside stretched from university all the way to 10 years later, clearly recording the events of his previous life, from sweetness to disappointment, to bitterness, until complete despair and hopelessness. At the end of the diary, Edith also wrote down the entire experience of this lifetime. Cliff clutched the notebook tightly, with such force that the pages wrinkled at the edges. The final entry in the diary read, "I am studying abroad and won't repeat the same mistakes. 10 years from now, Edith, I can't wipe away your tears for you, but I will follow your expectations and venture into a broader world. I hope that while I'm experiencing freedom, you'll find happiness too." Cliff experienced a sharp pain in his head, and he fell to his knees clutching the diary. He was wrong. He had made too many mistakes. Even with a second chance at life, Edith did not give him another opportunity. He had failed the Edith of his previous life. And he had also failed the her of this life. Childhood sweethearts are a destined bond, yet he managed to ruin it with his own hands. He truly is the biggest fool in the world. A piercing wail erupted from his throat, soaring into the night sky alongside the distant fireworks that burst forth at that very moment. Finally, it all vanished into thin air in the cold wind. When Cliff returned home in a daze, he found someone sitting in her room. That red knitted hat looked all too familiar. It was the New Year's gift he had given Edith last year. He rushed over and pulled the person into his embrace. "Edith, I knew it. I knew you wouldn't leave me. That must have been a nightmare he just had." He and Edith had been together since birth. How could she bear to leave him? "Cliff, Diana." An unexpected voice came from his embrace. Cliff stiffened, slowly pushed the person away. And his burning heart instantly plunged into an ice cellar the moment he saw her face clearly. Diana didn't mind that he had mistaken her for someone else and asked with a smile, "Cliff, where have you been? I came to celebrate the new year with you. Is that hat in that box a New Year's gift you gave me? I really like it." Cliff followed his gaze to the cardboard box by the door, rummaged through it, and found it was filled with things he had given to Edith. Everything was kept intact in that box, from the rattle drum she had since she could remember, every birthday and New Year's gift, to the crystal lamp he had made by hand. Edith actually returned everything to him. She really didn't want him anymore. Diana seemed oblivious to the situation, picking up the crystal lamp and playing with it in her hands. "I like this one too. Can you give it to me?" Cliff's gaze was as sharp as a knife as he snatched the crystal lamp from her hand. This was a gift for Edith. "Don't touch it." Diana's eyes instantly reddened. "Cliff, what's wrong with you? Ever since you got injured saving me at the sports meet, you've become a completely different person. You know the whole school says you like me, and I thought so too. If it weren't for liking someone, who would be foolish enough to use their own body to block a steel pipe for another person? But when you woke up, you only called out Edith's name. You didn't even look at me. Why is that?" Cliff watched Diana cry with an expressionless face, feeling no emotion inside, even a bit annoyed. He really didn't know how he had tolerated such a foolish character setting before. "Diana, as your classmate, I've done more than enough for you, haven't I? In high school, I tutored you to get into university, and now I've helped you secure the graduate recommendation spot at LIPS. But let me tell you, this is just mutual help between classmates, it's not love." Diana was speechless, then burst into loud sobs as if she had suffered the greatest injustice. Throwing herself into his arms, she shook her head while crying. "No, I consulted a fortune teller, and we are destined to be together. Even if we miss each other, we'll still end up together 10 years later. Since that's the case, why should we wait these 10 years? 10 years from now you'll say you like me. So now it's my turn to say I like you, let's be together." Cliff seemed to have figured something out, his obscure dark eyes gradually clearing. He used just one finger to push Diana's forehead away. "Diana, are you planning to bite the hand that feeds you?" Diana forgot to cry, sniffled once, and asked, "What do you mean? I kindly helped you. And yet you ruined my marriage prospects by insisting on marrying me yourself. Isn't that biting the hand that feeds you?" Cliff found it amusing. With a serious expression, she repeated emphatically, "I mean it. 10 years from now, we'll still end up together anyway. So why bother messing with Edith? You might as well set her free. 10 years later, because you caused her parents' death, she'll absolutely despise you." Cliff yanked the red woolen hat off her head. "So you came back after being reborn and did all that just to break up me and Edith? Is that it?" Diana stared blankly for a few seconds, then immediately denied it. "No, I wasn't reborn. I just had a dream. In the dream." Cliff stepped closer step by step, looked directly into her evasive eyes, and smiled. "Stop pretending, because I'm also from 10 years in the future." Cliff. Diana had nowhere left to retreat, her back pressed tightly against the cold wall, her throat was dry, and for a moment she couldn't process this information at all. She thought Cliff was that easily fooled little boy from 10 years ago, so she repeatedly stirred up trouble between him and Edith. But 10 years later, Cliff was definitely not someone to be easily fooled. The Cliff before her had a youthful face, but his eyes were mature and carried a sinister, cold glint. He crossed his arms and curled his lips into a slight smile. It's perfect timing, Diana. There are still some things I need to ask you about from our previous life. Diana was so nervous she wanted to run, but his hands blocked her. Cliff, don't be like this, I'm scared. Cliff sneered coldly. You pushed Beck into the water. You weren't scared, you watched Edith's parents drown. You weren't scared, you deliberately swapped Beck's fever medicine for aspirin, which she's allergic to. You weren't scared, so what are you scared of now? I didn't, he nodded. I don't have concrete proof for these, but I'm asking you why you deliberately fell down the stairs yourself, and then on your deathbed, accused Edith of pushing you. Diana became emotional, her eyes widening. Why, Cliff, how dare you ask me why? Edith has already signed the divorce agreement, so why won't you sign it? You were the one who said you would marry me, to give our child a proper name, and in the end, you're the one who went back on your word, so I had no choice. I could only gamble with this child, but I never imagined that because of this, I would hemorrhage and lose my life. It's all your fault. Cliff found it quite amusing, so he decided to drop the act. Diana, our reunion after 10 years was orchestrated by you. Wasn't it? That accident was also your doing, right? You've been systematically dismantling my life, all to make me the fall guy for your child. As soon as these words were spoken, Diana's face turned deathly pale, and her hands and feet trembled uncontrollably. She was just about to deny it, but Cliff dropped another ultimate bombshell. I've already tested that child's DNA. And it's not my child, haha, he's not even of Asian descent. Diana closed her eyes and pleaded in a low voice. But this time I didn't harm Edith, I even helped save her parents' lives. On the night of the landslide, Edith was supposed to come see you, but I stopped her. If it weren't for me, she would have died that night. Cliff, let's not miss each other in this lifetime, okay? She reached out carefully and tugged at Cliff's sleeve. In her previous life, Diana had an extremely chaotic private life while studying abroad. It wasn't until she returned home that she discovered she was pregnant. When she learned that Cliff was doing very well, she had an idea. As Cliff gradually fell into her trap, she deliberately got him drunk, and after a night of passion, she naturally pinned the child on Cliff. But just as Cliff was willing to divorce for her, an accident happened. He suddenly tore up the divorce agreement. Diana naturally assumed it was Edith's fault, so she went to confront her. In order to make Cliff resolutely agree to divorce, she went so far as to stage a miscarriage to frame someone. The only thing she hadn't anticipated was that she would die from massive bleeding. Later, Edith intended to jump from the building to prove her innocence. Cliff only regretted it after checking the surveillance footage. Her thoughts returned, and Diana was shoved hard, her shoulder blade hitting the wall painfully. Get lost. I already misjudged someone in my last life. Am I going to be blind again in this one? With that, Cliff left without looking back. Australia. In February, Australia is in the midst of summer. Edith walked across the lush, verdant campus, carrying her new textbooks. The sun was blazing, and the edges of the palm trees were so bright they stung the eyes, as if the entire campus had been melted into a summer film reel. Yet, Edith felt an unprecedented sense of ease and comfort. New city, new campus, new courses, new classmates. Her life had begun anew. Edith followed her timetable to the innermost classroom in the physics building. The moment she stepped inside, she bumped squarely into someone. When she finally looked up, the apology in her eyes transformed into surprise. Arvin, what are you doing at AU2? Edith, when she saw the silhouette of a Chinese boy in a white shirt at the school gate, Edith felt he looked familiar. It wasn't until she entered the classroom that she realized it was Arvin, the senior she knew. The young man had a smile playing on his lips, his dark eyes shimmering with a faint, elusive light. Because I got accepted as a postgraduate student at the University of Macau, quite a coincidence, isn't it? Yes, I never thought I'd run into someone I know. Edith naturally sat down next to Arvin. The bell rang, and Arvin picked up the textbook and walked toward the podium. She froze for a few seconds. Arvin began to introduce himself smoothly. So he was the physics professor's teaching assistant. In the physics lab group at University A, Edith had already witnessed Arvin's capabilities. Indeed, with his abilities, he was fully qualified for the position of physics teaching assistant. On the lecture platform, Arvin taught entirely in English, appearing as elegant as a seasoned scholar. If no one reminded you, no one would think he was just a teaching assistant graduate student. After one class, Edith benefited greatly. There were 2 professional terms she didn't understand, and she was planning to ask Arvin about them after class, but she didn't expect Arvin to take the initiative to approach her. Edith, would you like to have lunch together? She nodded in agreement. Sure, senior. I actually have some questions to ask you. Alright, let's go, we can talk while we walk. Just as we stepped out of the teaching building, a white boy came skating towards us on a skateboard, Arvin very gentlemanly. The two walked side by side along the palm-lined avenue of the campus, like close friends who had known each other for a long time. Perhaps it was because she had met someone familiar in an unfamiliar campus, perhaps it was the loneliness of being in a foreign land, or perhaps it was because she had already known Arvin since her time at University A. She naturally grew closer to Arvin. During a physics group experiment, Edith couldn't fully participate due to an old injury on her hand that hadn't fully healed, so she could only stand silently by and watch her classmates operate. For the physics program at the University of Macau, practical work was very important, even crucial to whether one would pass or fail there at the end of the semester. So, unwilling to give up, Edith went home and bought a bunch of lab equipment. She wanted to recreate the experimental process from the project on her own. At first, everything went incredibly smoothly, but later on, her injured hand trembled slightly, making it impossible to accurately measure the quantities for the experiment. Edith accidentally poured too much flammable substance and ended up blowing up the simple laboratory her father had set up for her. Fortunately, she was wearing full protective gear, and the flames only burned off her eyebrows. But this didn't escape Arvin's notice. After learning about it, he gave Edith a stern reprimand. Edith, you're a professional physicist too. How could you violate regulations by conducting this kind of experiment in your own home? You were lucky this time. But what if next time you end up making a C4 bomb? Edith's eyes instantly reddened, but she still stubbornly defended herself. I was just afraid of falling behind in the experimental coursework and affecting my final grade. My hand just won't get better. I've tried many methods, but it's still the same as before. If I don't participate in the class experiment because I'm afraid of holding back my group mates, can't I just do it at home? Please stop bothering me. Edith turned back to her seat, straightened her spine, and began studying the physics experiment procedure. Arvin felt a pang in his heart, realizing he had spoken too harshly. After the class ended, he stopped the departing Edith and slipped a note into her hand. When she reached a secluded spot, Edith slowly unfolded it. Sorry, I let my concern get the better of me. Come to Lab A after 5, and I'll personally teach you the experiment. Edith felt an indescribable emotion. She carefully folded the note, gazed at that busy figure, and a faint, almost imperceptible smile curved the corners of her lips. The academy ball. This was Edith's first time attending a social dance at school. She felt a bit reserved, but a familiar Chinese classmate pulled her onto the dance floor, letting her experience the novelty of cultural differences. As the melodious waltz music played, Edith's steps became lively, but in her excitement, she lost her balance and started to fall backward. She thought she would fall, but she was caught and held tightly in a broad, warm embrace. Arvin. Didn't you say you had an experiment project to finish and couldn't make it? Edith's eyes sparkled brightly after recognizing the newcomer. After that lab accident was discovered by Arvin, he invited Edith to conduct specialized course experiments in the laboratory. When Edith couldn't complete the tasks, he would personally step in to assist. In the laboratory, Arvin wore a white lab coat, standing tall and elegant like an orchid and jade tree, when the sunset glow fell upon him. Edith was momentarily dazed, but today's Arvin was particularly different. He wore a dignified tailcoat with a black silk bow tie, which made him exceptionally handsome. He gracefully extended his hand, making a standard invitation to dance. Beautiful Miss Edith, may I have the honor of sharing a dance with you? Edith chuckled and placed her hand in his palm. Yes, their hands clasped together, the distance closed, and it felt as if their hearts were pressed tightly against each other. Arvin answered her earlier question. The project isn't finished yet, but the professor kicked us out. He said he refuses to encourage overwork and wants us to come to the dance to enjoy the life that young people should have. She had never spoken to Arvin so closely before, her cheeks flushed crimson, her mind a mess, and she answered haphazardly. Arvin smiled and asked, So, has anyone invited you to dance tonight? Edith shook her head but then immediately nodded. Yes, but I didn't accept. In Edith's heart, dancing the waltz was a rather ambiguous affair. If Arvin hadn't come, she would have withdrawn from the dance floor. The crisp scent of lemon and mint drifted into her breath, and a magnetic voice sounded by her ear. Edith, weren't you asking me why I chose the postgraduate recommendation spot at the University of Macau? Actually, it was because I saw you filled out the exchange program application form for the University of Macau that I chose it too. The words buzzed incessantly in her ears. For her, all this for her. Edith felt a tremor in her heart and retorted, Why? Immediately after asking, she regretted it. What a foolish question. What else could it be? Arvin, his eyes were as clear and bright as the stars in the night sky, holding a fatal attraction that tightly captured her heart and soul. Because I like you, I can't help but want to be closer to you, Edith. Don't be nervous, I just want to pursue you, of course. You have the right to refuse. Can you give me an answer after you've thought it over? She forgot to breathe and nodded woodenly. As soon as the dance ended, she excused herself to go to the restroom and hurriedly fled. Edith stood in front of the mirror in the restroom, touching her burning cheeks, her heart unable to calm down for a long time. Was that considered a formal confession just now? Her feelings for Arvin were indeed different from those for others, part mentor, part friend. There was an inexplicable sense of familiarity about Arvin that made her unable to resist drawing closer to him. In daily life, Arvin was more like an older brother, helping her adjust to life in Australia and the unfamiliar academic environment, things her parents had never provided for her. In academics, however, Arvin was quite strict, yet his rigorous approach to scholarship only added to his charm. Edith suddenly remembered that in the diary, her future self was falsely accused of having an affair with Arvin Sr. I never expected that Arvin actually had feelings for her. If she really agreed, I wonder how Cliff from 10 years later would react when he found out. Thinking this way, Edith washed her face and was about to return to the dance when a familiar voice suddenly sounded behind her. Edith, I finally found you. Edith turned her head, and the moment she saw that face clearly, her brows furrowed tightly. She replied in English, "Sorry, you've mistaken me for someone else." Then she brushed past Cliff without even giving him an extra glance. Cliff's heart sank to the bottom. He had flown thousands of miles to come before Edith. Even if she had scolded him a few times or hit him a few times, it would have been better than pretending not to know him. Cliff, all the words he had prepared got stuck in his throat. He took a deep breath, turned around, and hurried after her. "Edith, can you just listen to me for a moment?" Just as he was about to grab Edith, a tall, well-built man stepped in front of her. "You can tell me what's going on first." The man's expression was cold and stern, completely blocking the Edith behind him. Cliff narrowed his eyes and recognized the person who had arrived. "Arvin, why are you everywhere?" This face that he loathed had followed him from his previous life to this one. It was simply haunting. Yes, he hasn't settled the score with Arvin yet. In his previous life, it was also because he received that ambiguous photo of Arvin and Edith that he got so angry and argued with Edith, shouting about getting a divorce. If it weren't for Arvin, why would he have gone to the bar to drown his sorrows and fallen into Diana's trap? Arvin coldly warned, "This classmate, you're not a student of this university. If you don't leave this college dance after trespassing, I'll have to call security." Cliff gritted his teeth in frustration, clenching his fists tightly. "Get out of my face. This is between me and Edith. It's none of your business." Arvin flashed a hint of amusement in his eyes, genuinely curious about where this man's intense hostility came from. They clearly didn't know each other, and he only vaguely remembered seeing him once at the activity center in trance. "Oh," Arvin curled his lips into a teasing smile, then raised Edith's hand in front of him. "Edith is my girlfriend now. So you tell me if it's my business or not." Cliff suppressed his violently heaving chest, his eyes filled with grief as he stared fixedly at the pair of clasped hands. "Arvin, you're truly despicable, taking advantage of someone in crisis. How dare you? Come out and face me one-on-one." Edith didn't want to harm the innocent, so she proactively stepped forward to interrupt. "Cliff, that's enough. We have nothing left to say to each other." A glimmer of light finally appeared in his eyes. "Edith, you're finally willing to acknowledge me. Can you give me a chance to explain? I can explain everything that happened before. There's really nothing between Diana and me. Everything was her scheme. I was too foolish and did so many things that hurt you." Edith turned her head away and refused emotionlessly. "It has nothing to do with me." Cliff took 2 steps forward, wanting to say something more. Arvin took her hand and led her away first, still unwilling to give up. He chased after them, pointing at Arvin in a fluster, and asked Edith, "Is he really your boyfriend? You're lying to me, aren't you?" "No," she answered firmly. "Arvin is my boyfriend, so please stop bothering me." The cold gaze, the cold tone, the cold words like icy blades. They pierced straight through Cliff's heart. "It hurts." Did Edith from the previous life feel this same heartache? Cliff could only watch helplessly as the two of them walked away intimately right in front of him, his legs feeling as heavy as lead, unable to move. After Edith and the others reached a deserted corner, she let go of Arvin's hand. "Thank you, Senior. Thank you for helping me." She lowered her eyes, feeling deeply embarrassed. "Edith, don't say thank you to me. This is what a suitor should do. Besides, you and Cliff have no relationship, so there's no need to apologize for his rudeness." Arvin cupped Edith's face and tapped her nose with his finger. "You are beautiful today. Don't be sad over unimportant people." The pale moonlight spilled onto the corridor, The music in the hall had not yet stopped, but at this moment, the atmosphere in a certain place reached its climax. After the ball, Arvin walked Edith home, only to be blocked by Cliff at her doorstep once again. Cliff stood with a large suitcase in his hand, pleading softly, "Edith, I've run out of money and have nowhere to stay. Can I crash at your place for one night?" "Absolutely not." Edith was too angry to speak to him. She opened the door and went inside. The door slammed shut with a bang, and Cliff's eyes dimmed once more. Standing nearby, Arvin couldn't help but sneer. "Cliff, right, that's a pretty pathetic move. Are you planning to cosplay as a homeless man to make Edith overflow with sympathy?" A flicker of malice crossed Cliff's face. He really wanted to beat up this annoying man, but he didn't want to do anything else that would make Edith dislike him. "None of your business, I'm going to beat you up." A few minutes later, the door opened again. It was Edith's mom. "Cliff, come on in." Cliff greeted politely, carrying his suitcase as he entered, not forgetting to turn back and give Arvin a provocative look. Just a wet behind-the-ears young brat. He's already 30. Arvin has no way to compete with him. Edith, after her shower, didn't forget to message Arvin to ask if he had arrived home, but she never received a reply. It wasn't until Edith's dad called her downstairs for fruit that she realized Cliff, who had just been outside the door, had actually come in and was now sitting on their living room sofa. She instantly knew why Arvin hadn't replied to her message. "Edith, try this quickly. The apple auntie cut is so sweet." Cliff familiarly forked a piece of apple and brought it to her lips. She didn't take it, glared at him deeply, then turned and went to the kitchen. "Mom, why is he here?" Edith's mother explained. "Edith, Cliff sneaked into Australia alone. Your Aunt Yang called and specifically asked me to take good care of him. They will come to Australia tomorrow to take him away. Can you bear with it for a while, please?" Edith's dad picked the largest and sweetest guava to coax Edith. "Edith, be good. You can go back to your room first. Cliff will sleep in the guest room on the first floor. We won't let him disturb you." She reluctantly took the guava. As she passed through the living room, Cliff wanted to say something to her, but she turned her head and went upstairs. Edith angrily punched the pillow twice. How could he be so shameless? She had already stepped aside for him and Diana, even moving the whole family to Australia. Why was he still haunting her and refusing to let her go? Buzz, her phone vibrated. Arvin had replied to her message. The gloomy mood was swept away. Edith held her phone and chatted with Arvin about tomorrow's major course project. Although the topic was dull physics, the corners of her lips never dropped. The next day, when Edith was going to school, Cliff wanted to go with her. "Edith, I plan to apply to the University of Macau. Can you take me for an early visit?" She coldly refused. "No, then can I take you to school?" Perhaps Edith was walking too fast and didn't hear, so Cliff took it as her agreement. When she reached the street corner, the one wearing a denim jacket and white shirt, Arvin was standing there waiting for her. "Senior," Edith waved excitedly and then jogged over. Arvin turned around and handed her the American-style sandwich he was holding. The two walked side by side towards the school under the morning sun, a picture of youthful beauty. Cliff watched this scene with mixed emotions swirling in his heart. He recalled that in high school, Edith would wait for him at that intersection to go to school together, and every day she would bring him milk and bread, but he didn't cherish it. Once, Edith overslept, so he went to school by himself. That silly girl waited for him at the intersection for a long time. He was tired of the daily milk and bread, so he would always give them to other classmates, and sometimes even secretly throw them away. And now, that girl would no longer prepare these things for him. Just as Cliff was still feeling melancholy, Cliff's mom walked up and caught him. Cliff's dad raised his hand to hit him. "Cliff, how old are you now?" Leaving without a word. "Back then you secretly changed your college application and lied to us, saying it was a slip-up. We let that slide. But now you actually want to drop out." Cliff's mom was so upset by Cliff that tears welled up in her eyes, and she couldn't stop pulling him back while trying to persuade him. "Come back with us first, whether you take a leave of absence or drop out. We can discuss it after we go back." "Okay, no, I want to go to the University of Australia. I want to be with Edith." Cliff turned around and ran off again. Physics lab, University of Macau. Edith was at her seat, preparing for a new class, when someone approached her desk. "Excuse me, is this seat taken? May I sit here?" "You may." She looked up, her eyes meeting that familiar, yet loathsome, face. Cliff sat down with a smile, while Edith instinctively stood up, quickly gathered her things, and moved to the farthest corner. His eyes dimmed in response. Edith still really hates him. As soon as class ended, Cliff wanted to talk to Edith, but found she had run off faster than a rabbit, disappearing in the blink of an eye. After returning home, Cliff found Cliff's dad, Cliff's mom sitting on the sofa, chatting with Edith beside them. "Edith, can you help Auntie persuade him? He says he wants to drop out and reapply to the University of Australia. Mom, this is my own decision. Why are you bothering Edith? Cliff impatiently pulled Edith up from the sofa. Edith couldn't take it anymore. She shook off his hand and poured out the dissatisfaction that had been buried deep in her heart these past few days. Cliff, so you do know that doing this bothers me. Can you please stop causing trouble for others? What exactly is our relationship? You can say you changed your college preference to University B for Diana, but I don't need you retaking exams for University of Macau for my sake. Keep your presumptuous love to yourself. I don't need it, since Aunt Yang and Uncle Yang are here to pick you up. Please move out of our house today. I don't want to see you anymore, it's really annoying. Cliff cried out in pain. No, I won't leave. Edith was driven to the point where the corners of her eyes turned red. Fine, if you won't leave, then I will. She really did slam the door and leave, leaving everyone in the room stunned. Edith ran out of the house, tears streaming down her face. She didn't understand why Cliff was pushing her like this. Everyone was blaming her. Tears blurred her vision, and for a moment she couldn't see the path clearly. She bumped into a firm chest. I'm sorry, Edith. What's wrong? Who bullied you? Tell me. The gentle voice made her emotions relax, and after seeing that the person was Arvin, Edith could no longer hold back. She tightly wrapped her arms around Arvin's waist and burst into tears. She incoherently told Arvin everything. Arvin didn't question her, nor did he treat her like she was crazy. Instead, he patiently listened and comforted her. I said I made these decisions because of a diary. Don't you think that's strange? Under the streetlight, Arvin rubbed her head. Silly, what's wrong with just wanting to protect yourself and your family? Besides, it's better to believe it exists than to risk ignoring it. His smile was as dazzling as the Milky Way, and she couldn't help but stare, mesmerized. Senior. About what you asked me to consider at the dance that day, I've made up my mind now. Arvin gazed deeply at Edith, his cherry-red lips parting as he said, let's give it a try. The scent of mint and lemon enveloped her. Alright, from now on I'll be someone with a girlfriend too. The senior students in the lab were still teasing me about being single. Tomorrow I'll share this good news with them. The slightly cool breeze carried their joyful laughter to Cliff's ears not far away. He stared woodenly as the two embraced. Arvin even kissed Edith. He desperately wanted to rush forward, but what identity did he have? Now, he could only stand in the shadows, watching the two of them sweetly together with lifeless eyes, feeling the sharp pangs of pain in his heart. Could this be considered a good hand played terribly? A long unheard, clear, and beautiful woman's voice pulled his thoughts back. Cliff looked towards the source of the voice and was shocked to see Diana. His face instantly darkened. What are you doing here? Are you following me? The current Diana was completely different. She had completely abandoned her student-era style, now with red lips and big wavy hair, exuding the aura of a mature woman. Cliff, you reported me, you made me lose the lips offer, and now my reputation at B University is ruined. Of course I'm going to follow you. Don't even think about shaking me off for the rest of your life. Her voice licked at Cliff's heart like a venomous snake, Cliff making him feel a wave of nausea. Diana, I'm warning you, I'm going to win Edith back now. If you dare interfere with my plans, I'll make you regret it. Cliff's eyes were sinister, and he didn't seem to be joking. Diana was stunned for a moment. Trying to threaten me? I'll go tell Edith right now that you're actually reborn from 10 years in the future. She'll definitely despise you. Dream on about winning her back. She made as if to really go, but her neck suddenly tightened. Cliff actually grabbed her by the neck and pinned her firmly against the tree trunk. He lowered his voice and sneered coldly. Diana, don't play with fire. You love playing around, don't you? Then go play to your heart's content in Australia. Find yourself a black or white boyfriend and get married. If you dare interfere in my affairs, you'll die even more miserably than in your previous life. Diana flushed red. Unable to catch her breath, only when she was nearly suffocating did he release his grip. Diana collapsed to the ground, coughing violently, while he walked away heartlessly. Cliff didn't know that at this moment, Diana's jealousy and hatred had reached their peak. After he left, Diana got into the car. Her gaze was like ice, staring intently at Edith not far away. Fine, since I can't have him, then let's all go down together. The roar of the engine echoed through the entire street. The car shooting forward like an arrow, heading straight toward Edith. Watch out. With a bang, Edith was sent flying. Edith felt as if she had been dreaming for a very long time. Memories from her past life and this life mingled together, like two incompatible quanta, endlessly entangled. Her head ached, and her heart ached even more. Beck, please don't leave Mom. Okay, Mom and Dad, how could you just leave me like this? Cliff, how could you do this to me? How could you divorce me? Heart-wrenching, sorrowful cries lingered in her ears. In the end, she put on a white dress and stood on the rooftop of the 19th floor, then fell like a drifting duckweed swaying in the wind. Cliff, if there is a next life, let's not meet again. Cliff's eyes turned bloodshot, and he actually jumped down with her. No, Edith, it's my fault. Don't leave. Edith opened her eyes again, finding herself already in a hospital room. Edith's dad, Edith's mom, was anxiously waiting by the hospital bed. And when she saw Edith wake up, Edith's mom burst into tears of joy. Edith, how are you feeling? Does your head hurt? Mom, Dad, Edith held them and cried bitterly. The stark contrast of having lost and regained them made her tears flow uncontrollably. Edith, what's wrong? Why are you crying so sadly? Are you feeling unwell somewhere? Edith's dad cherished his daughter the most, and seeing her cry like this made his heart ache terribly. Edith shook her head, wiped away her tears, and flashed a bright smile at Edith's dad. Dad, I'm fine. Where's Arvin? Edith's dad showed a lonely expression on his face. He's still in emergency surgery. If he hadn't protected you, the person in the operating room right now might have been you. What? Edith's face instantly turned pale. She struggled to get out of bed. Dad, take me to see him, please. At that moment, Cliff walked in. Arvin has been transferred to the ICU. You should rest well first. And I'll take you to see him this afternoon. He came in carrying chicken soup and nutritional supplements, ladled a bowl of steaming hot soup, and handed it to Edith. Edith looked up at him just like that, her eyes filled with complex emotions he couldn't decipher. It's not hot anymore. Should I feed you? As he spoke, Cliff picked up the spoon and brought it to her lips. Edith swatted the entire bowl away, sending it crashing to the floor in pieces. Cliff, didn't I say that if everything could start over, I hope you would let me go? What are you still doing in front of me now? Cliff immediately fell silent, his face turning as pale as if all the blood had been drained from it. You, Edith answered without hesitation, it is exactly what you think. So please leave my hospital room immediately. Edith's dad, Edith's mom also sensed that something was wrong, but remained silent. Cliff, his hands hung limply, his pale lips trembling uncontrollably, and he didn't dare to look directly into Edith's eyes. Fortunately, Edith's dad saved the situation by making an excuse for him, and he fled the hospital room as if escaping. Edith's mother didn't ask Edith anything. She could feel that Edith had changed, but she was still her daughter. Edith was burning with anxiety to go to the hospital room to see Arvin. Finally, Edith's dad found a wheelchair and pushed her upstairs. Through the glass, Edith finally saw the still unconscious Arvin, covered in tubes. Her fingers caressed the glass. Mom, he's my boyfriend. I want to be with him. Will you agree? Edith's dad, Edith's mom gently stroked her back. As long as Edith likes him, we all agree. Besides, he did save your life. Edith parted her lips, but said nothing. In fact, Arvin didn't just save her in this lifetime. In the previous life, upon learning about Edith's situation, he rushed back to the country without delay. He exhausted all his abilities to save her, who was in a vegetative state, but it was all too late. Her heart had long been dead. However, she was grateful that Arvin buried her beside Beck and her parents' graves. That was enough. On the third day, Edith was discharged from the hospital. The car accident was caused by Diana. Edith has requested the local police to arrest the person responsible. However, due to the old and blurry surveillance footage near their home, Diana's whereabouts remained elusive. A few days later, Edith was visited by Cliff and his parents, who came to apologize. That day she had just returned from visiting Arvin at the hospital. Cliff solemnly walked up to Edith's dad and Edith's mom with a gift. He put down the things in his hands and knelt piously before them. Cliff, what are you doing? Get up quickly. Cliff's mom pushed Edith's mom aside. Don't pull him up. He deserves this. He's told us everything. His father already beat him last night. Today he came specifically to apologize. Cliff's dad had a livid face, pointing at Cliff on the ground. This beast, bewitched by that Diana, has been toying with Edith time and again, nearly losing his own life. He even told us about his previous life. If it's true, it's utterly infuriating. I could beat this unfilial son to death. Cliff looked haggard, his voice hoarse. Uncle, Aunt, and Edith, I sincerely apologize for all the mistakes I made before. Regarding Edith's injury this time, it was also because of me. I'm sorry for all the pain I've caused you these days. Please rest assured, I will definitely resolve this. Edith's dad understood the implication in Edith's mom's words. Cliff had hurt their daughter for another woman, but now he regrets it and wants to make amends. Sure enough, Cliff's next words were, "But I truly know I was wrong now. I will definitely reform myself. Please allow Edith to marry me. I swear I'll treat her well for the rest of my life." As he raised his hand to swear an oath, he was interrupted by a glass of water thrown at him. Edith trembled with rage, and without a second thought, she flung the water from the coffee table right into his face. Shameless. Get out of my sight and never show your face here again. She snatched up all the gifts from the floor and hurled them outside. Edith's dad rose to his feet, his face dark with anger, and showed the guest the door. "Old Yang, if you still consider me a friend, take Cliff and leave now. The damage is done, there's no turning back." Cliff's dad felt ashamed, quickly apologized, and then pulled Cliff away. After stepping outside, he raised his hand and slapped Cliff across the face. "You disgrace, if you're not going back to the country, we are. I'll pretend I don't have a son like you." Cliff's mom blushed with tears welling up in her eyes. "Cliff, Mom has never asked you for anything, but this time I'm begging you, go back, stop bothering Edith." He stood as stubbornly as a century-old tree, rooted to the spot, unmoving. A series of urgent rings slowly made him pick up his phone. "Hello, Cliff, save me, someone's chasing me, a group of drunk black guys, please help me." Diana, her voice was filled with extreme panic, with teasing English and lewd laughter in the background. "Where are you?" His voice held not a trace of warmth. Diana thought Cliff still held a shred of affection for her and wept for joy. "I'm in the alley on 7th Avenue. Cliff, I'll wait for you. Please come quickly." "Alright, you just wait." Cliff, after hanging up the phone, he walked in the opposite direction of 7th Avenue. Diana huddled in that cold, foul-smelling trash can for half an hour, still holding on to hope the moment the lid was lifted. "Little beauty, I've got you." "Ah, Tilda," a miserable and wretched voice echoed through the entire alley, yet no one stopped for her. It took a full 3 hours before those drunkards finally walked out of the alley, satisfied. In the dark corner, a disheveled woman huddled, trembling as she clutched her torn clothes. Tears slid from her bruised lips, congealing into a thick, bitter hatred amidst the filth. Edith continued to visit Arvin at the hospital every day as usual. Just as Arvin had cared for her in their previous life, she sat by his bed, recounting her daily life and amusing anecdotes, massaging his hand and foot joints, and wiping his body with a towel. These were all things Arvin had done in their previous life. This time, it was her turn to care for him. On that rainy night, Edith was suddenly awakened by a clap of thunder, and at that very moment, she received a call from the hospital. It is said that Arvin has woken up. She excitedly got out of bed, immediately got dressed, and prepared to go to the hospital to see Arvin. She didn't want to disturb her sleeping parents, so she tiptoed around and prepared to take a taxi to the hospital. Edith held an umbrella and finally managed to hail a taxi on the street. She was completely immersed in joy, oblivious to the danger she was in. By the time she realized something was wrong, the car had already reached a secluded cliff. "Hello. This isn't the way to the hospital." Edith's voice trailed off as she recognized the driver's face. "Long time no see, Edith." Beneath the black baseball cap appeared Diana's face, along with a sinister smile. "Diana, you brought me to this point in my previous life. What do you intend to do in this one?" Edith tried hard to conceal her fear, her hand quietly reaching for the car lock. "I want to perish together with you. The one you hate is Cliff, so why come after me?" Diana laughed maniacally. "Killing the person he loves most will make him live in agony for the rest of his life. That's even more torturous than killing him." Edith, the moment she unlocked the handcuff, Diana grabbed her hand and locked them tightly together with the handcuff. "You still want to run? Come to hell with me." Diana didn't give her any time to break free and escape. The roar of the engine started, speeding rapidly towards the cliff. With a loud bang, a violent impact occurred as another vehicle crashed into the side of their car, forcing it off its trajectory. The car tumbled. Edith and she passed out. Edith, the moment she unlocked the handcuff, Diana grabbed her hand and locked them tightly together with the handcuff. "You still want to run? Come to hell with me." Diana didn't give her any time to break free and escape. The roar of the engine started, speeding rapidly towards the cliff. With a loud bang, a violent impact occurred as another vehicle crashed into the side of their car, forcing it off its trajectory. The car tumbled. Edith felt a sharp pain, and in her dazed state, she vaguely saw someone knocking on the window. It was Cliff. She then completely lost consciousness. He picked up a stone and smashed the glass. He used all his strength to drag Edith from the back seat, only to find her hand resting against Diana's. His heart ached uncontrollably. Diana, that beast. He wished he could find a knife and chop her hand off right then and there, but it couldn't be done. He had no choice but to suppress all his anger and rescue Diana as well. After being sent to the hospital and undergoing emergency treatment, the doctor delivered the final verdict. Diana had a fractured cervical spine and was highly likely to be bedridden for the rest of her life, and Edith has fallen into a deep coma. If she doesn't wake up within 3 days, she might remain in a vegetative state for the rest of her life. He forced himself to stand up from the wheelchair and lunged at Cliff, punching him hard. "You beast, in the previous life, you turned her into a vegetable, and now in this life, it's the same. How far do you have to harm her before you stop?" Cliff was completely powerless. Letting him beat him up, he muttered deliriously, "I'm sorry, I really didn't want it to be like this. Get out, get out. Edith absolutely doesn't want to see you. If you dare come again next time, I'll kill you. Arvin even wanted to grab his wheelchair and throw it at him, but was stopped by the medical staff nearby. Cliff left in frustration. He returned to his home country. He knelt every 3 steps as he made his way to pray before the Buddha. I am willing to let go of all my attachments in this life. In exchange for my beloved's awakening, I am willing to give up my life, so that she may live on. I am willing to never see him again in this lifetime, if it means he can have a happy and fulfilling life. 3 days later, Edith truly awakened. The haggard Arvin by the bedside held her tightly. I'm here. I failed to protect you properly in our previous life, but in this one, I will definitely keep you safe. It turned out Arvin had also been reborn. She leaned into that broad, warm embrace, responding to his affection. Okay, Arvin, I love you too. The tears of this life had already been shed, only happiness awaited them. The end.